Welcome back to the ZX9R project now. I know it's been 18 months since I released a video on this. As you can see, in that 18 months, I haven't made much progress. I've done very little. But I've now got a sports bike shaped hole in the garage, and I've got the bug again. We're coming into winter, so I'm picking this project up, and I'm determined to get this bike back on the road by summer next year, if not sooner. Right, before I go any further, I'm going to show you some footage from 18 months ago, which is when I tested this head, tested the ports, and also stripped it down. So we'll have a look at that, and then we'll come back to the now. Right, head's on the bench. Not the most scientific, but I'm just going to try putting some water into the valves and just see if we can find a leak that way. Probably not the right way to do it, but do no harm, should it? Not too bad. So that was 4, let's just try 3. There we are, leaking straight away. And this was the one with the lowest compression. I think we found our culprit. Let's try number 2. Number 2's good. Number 1. And that's good also. Okay, so let's try the same experiment again, but we'll do it on the exhaust side. A little bit trickier this side because port's facing down. So I'll use this little injector. Get the water in. Number 1. Okay, so we're looking. So 4's looking good. 3's looking good, which is the one with the inlet wasn't so good. Number 2 looking good. And number 1 also looking pretty good. So there we go. So that's pretty good, I think. So yeah, so it looks like we found the leak, or the source of why the compression was so low on cylinder 3. And the rest of the valves seem alright. So next job for this head is, I suppose, get it cleaned up, take the springs and the valves out, relap the valves, and put it back together. Okay, so I'm going to clean the head up a little bit with a bit of engine degreaser, just make it a little bit nicer to handle. I've done a little bit there, you can see how good that's coming up. And then I'll remove the valves. Right, there we are, looking a bit cleaner. As you can see, it's not perfect, but it's a bit nicer to handle now. I'll probably take it to get vapor blasted or something, I'm not sure yet. I'm going to see what other ways there are of cleaning it. This side's come up pretty good, but the exhaust side, the outlet, not so much so. But yeah, we'll look into that later on. Next job, let's get these valves out. Right, new compression tool. My old one got robbed from the car about 20 years ago, which is about roughly how long it is since I last did this, so quite excited about this. That's it. So I should be able to get the collets out with a magnet. There we go. valve. One down, 15 to go. Okay, so I don't lose track of what came from where. I'm going to store them like so in something I prepared earlier. Boom. Right, there we go. All the valves out. So, looking at this, surprised they sealed at all. I did that water test, because as you can see there's quite a lot of carbon buildup on the valve seats, in particular on the outlet, the exhaust side of things. So yeah, just relapping them, reseating them, should make a big difference to the compression. Right, last part of the head teardown is to get the valve stem seals out. So I should be able to see them there. So that, I've removed the valve stem seal for that one. This one's still got one on. Should be able to just there we go. Boom. 16 valve stem seals removed. Right. I think we're pretty much there. That's impressive stuff, isn't it? Carb cleaner. Starting to hallucinate a bit as well, which is a bit of a bonus. Should perhaps open a window. Right, cleaning going really well. I'm just trying now to clear the clean air system. You see that there? I'll hold that still. That hole there, there's one per cylinder. And it's called the clean air, or clean air, something like that, KLEEN. And I think the idea is that it puts clean air straight into the exhaust to help with the emissions. Feels like a bit of a cheat to myself. Something Volkswagen would do maybe, but yeah, I'm just cleaning them out. I know some people, they block these off as part of, as like a clean air modification. But I want to get the bike stock, so I'm going to clean these out for now, get them so that it's working, and then maybe later down the line I'll make that modification. But they're pretty blocked up at the minute. I wasn't able to get a piece of wire through before, through some of them anyway. These two have got them through, so that's now going in, and if we turn it over we'll see where that actually comes out. There we go. Which is that. So as you can see, these 4 channels here, one per cylinder, are, like I say, for the clean air system. I filled them up with carb cleaner before, and then eventually it started getting bubbles as it was obviously eating its way through, and then I've been able to get a piece of wire through to brush it through. So I'm just going to carry on getting them clean, and then pretty much there, I think, in terms of cleaning the heads. Alright, onto the valves. Again, just using card cleaner. Not bad. Before and after there. Right, back to the now. I don't know what happened with that footage. I think I must have lost something because it just ended. But we're back to now. So what have I done with the bike in the last 18 months? Well, very little, to be honest. Mainly just cleaning things up. So I started by getting all the grease and all the grime off with some carb cleaner and some engine cleaner. That worked really well. Then I reverted to various other things, wire brushes, wire wheel, smaller wire wheels to get in the little crevices. I've got a pack of sort of various sizes. These are sort of meant for a Dremel, but they fit in a drill as well. Sort of these Scotch pads, Brillo pads, whatever these are. Various wheels like this. And to be fair, I did get it pretty clean, but I wasn't quite happy with it. And while I've got it down to this level, I thought I'd get it vapor blasted. So as you can see, the vapor blasting worked really well. I'm really happy with how these have turned out. And then the only other thing I did was clean up and paint the rocker cover. It's not perfect, but it's much better than it was. And now it's got a layer of paint over it. It should just help protect it in the future against any sort of corrosion. I may put a clear coat on that yet, I'm not sure. So what are we doing next? Well, we're going to rebuild the head, but before we do that, I'm going to polish the exhaust ports. I'm not going to polish the inlet ports because my understanding is that the sort of imperfections on the inlet port help to keep the fuel atomized. If you think about the fuel and the air going through the inlet, any sort of imperfections in the port will sort of create sort of a bit of turbulent air, and I think that helps, like I say, keep the fuel atomized, which is what you want as it goes into the cylinder. Obviously, you've not got that issue with the outlet, and you want the outlet to be as smooth as possible. Two reasons for that. One, it just helps with the airflow. The less turbulence there is as air leaves the cylinder, the better. And also, there's less for the carbon to get a purchase on, so there's less chance of carbon buildup as well. So how am I going to polish the exhaust ports? Well, I'm going to use a Dremel. I'm going to start with this attachment here. I think this is generally meant for stone, but I actually find this works really well on the alloy. It's good for getting down the imperfections pretty quick without being too aggressive and just creating a lot of sort of scratches. I'll then move on to one of these abrasive wheels. I'll have to cut this down because it doesn't actually fit in there, but I'll cut it down, and that'll just help get that little bit smoother. Right, before I go any further with this, I just want to say, look, I am not a mechanic. I am not a trained mechanic. I have just tinkered with bikes and cars and engines since I could pick a spanner up. So please do your own research before doing anything like this. For me, this is just a project. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, well, I've enjoyed doing it. So what do I actually mean when I say I'm going to polish the ports? Well, you can see here that there's some imperfections in the casting. And actually, it actually feels quite rough, does that, on the finger. So that's what I'm polishing down. I just want to make as much of this surface here as smooth as possible. So I'm going to start from the exhaust side, and I'm going to try and get as much of the port polished from this side as possible. That's because I don't want the Dremel to catch on any part of the valve, because that wouldn't be good. Any imperfections in there, I'll need them as smooth as possible. I am going to be lapping them, but it's important to not scratch them, not to damage the valve seats. So like I say, I'm going to do as much as I can from this side, and then just be ultra careful when I go in from the top, just to get this this last section polished. So there you go, that's now a lot smoother, both to look at and to touch. So I'm just going to continue and just do that throughout the rest of the port and just get it as smooth as I can. Okay, so that's looking and feeling a lot better now. It might not be coming across on camera, but it feels so much smoother, and that's just with the Dremel bit. So next, cut down this abrasive wheel so that it actually fits in there, and just polish it even more. So there you go, that is looking and feeling much better. That's an after, and there's a before. Right, lapping the valves. So 3 cylinders done, 12 valves done so far. I thought I'd show you the procedure that I'm doing to do this. So I've chosen the old school way of doing it by hand. I've seen people do it with a drill. If you're using a drill, I wouldn't advise putting the drill bit straight into the stem like that, because potentially you're putting you could bend the stem. I don't actually have a choice of doing that with this because I haven't got access from the back to get the drill on. If you do want to use a drill, probably use something like a bit of fuel hose or something like that, just so you've got a bit of flexibility and you're not going to put any strain on the stem. That would be one way of doing it. The other way I've seen people do it is they take this tool, they take the rubber end off, and then use a drill bit like that to essentially put that rubber on the end, and then you can use then a drill from the top to spin the valves. Now, I've chosen not to do that. I'm going to do it manually because my valves, they're not that bad. They're not that pitted, they're not that badly scored. It's just a bit of carbon build-up. So it doesn't really need much to get these clean and get them sorted. So yeah, the old school way of doing it. So here we go, here's an exhaust valve. I've cleaned it up a fair bit, but as you can see, there's still quite a bit of carbon build-up there. So the first thing I need to do is get that cleaned up. I also want to get this surface cleaned up as well. So I need to get this really clean so that when I apply the lapping tool, it gets a really good suction on there and it sticks to it. So I need to get that as smooth as possible. So the way I'm going to do this is I've put the valve in the drill. I've tied it up not too tight. I don't want to make any marks on the stem. And then I'm simply just going to hold some of this abrasive stuff and just do it like so. So there you go, didn't take much, and that's looking a lot better. I'm sort of deliberately avoiding the point where the seat is, where this comes into contact with the cylinder head, and we'll do that with the grinding paste in a minute when I lap the valves. I'm just concentrating on this area here just to get as much carbon as I can. I'm just putting a little bit of oil on the valve stem guides, the holes themselves, and I'm also putting a bit of oil on the valve stem itself. So that should go in nice and easy now, like so. Okay, so this is the grinding paste I'm going to use. I actually think this is the same stuff I used 20-30 years ago. Quite cool that you can still get it, but it's a 2-in-1 type deal. So at one end you've got your coarse grinding paste, and then you've got a bit finer stuff. So we're going to start with the coarse. Right, start lapping. And basically doing this, you'll hear a change in tone as you're doing it. So it's quite, you can hear the grinding going on now. There, you hear how it's changed? That's what you want, that's where you want to get to. There, it's gone really smooth now. And then just do that a few times. Redistribute the paste back onto the actual valve seat itself, or the bit that comes into contact with the valve seat. Apply a bit more. And then what I like to do is when I first put it in with the new paste on, put it in lightly and just spin it so it helps sort of distribute it fairly evenly, and then go to town. So then again you can hear the paste working, and there it's gone pretty smooth. And it's important to keep lifting the valve and dropping it in a different location. It just helps distribute that paste. You don't end up with the same bit in the same area, just going back and forth. Right, that's the core stuff done. Now on to the fine end. Okay, that's that one done. So give it a wipe, clean it up, and make sure there's none of that paste left hanging around. It's not going to do the engine any favours. Okay, so with that valve relapped, I'm just going to check that the contact width is what it should be. I'm hoping it is, because I haven't really got the means to cut it any different. So let's just double check this by measuring the shiny bit, basically. It's quite hard to see, but yeah, there we go. So 1.3, so we are within tolerance, so that's good news. Right, that's the last 4 lapped in. Let's clean them up. Make sure, like I say, there's none of that rubbing compound left. Right, put these last 4 valves in. So I've got myself a new set of valve stem seals, so let's just get them on. I'll just press them down so it feels like they can't go down any further. Make sure that they're on the tops square, like so. Okay, so the assembly, the spring seat back in. Make sure that that is seated properly, like so. Yeah, looks good. Put the 2 springs back in, and again make sure that they're seated. Then it's the spring cap. Next it's the spring compressor. We want to compress the spring down so that there's enough valve stem sticking at the top to get the collets back in. That'll do us. That gives us loads of space. Pop the collets in. Okay, and then just back the spring compressor off. And there we go. All the valves relapped and reinstalled. There's only one thing left to do. Right, testing time. Inlet side looking good. Right, I've run out of white spirit, so I'm just gonna blast a load of carb cleaner in. All looking good except cylinder number 4. Maybe it's coming across on the camera, leaking a little bit. So I'm just going to take the valves back out, just give them a good clean up, because it might just be a little bit of grit that's still on the seat, and go from there. Now these are the first valves I actually installed, and what I started doing after this was, once I've got the valve located, just spinning it in its seat. And on some of them you could hear there was still a little bit of grit or something in there, and just by sort of spinning it you sort of found the sweet spot. There we go. So now that's spinning, it doesn't sound or feel like there's any grit or dirt in there. Right, there we go, that's done the trick. So I'll just remove the valves, clean them up. Like I say, there's probably a little bit of grit or something still on the seat. Reinstalled, and we're looking good. Right, there we go. Cylinder head all back together. I haven't done the valve clearances yet. I will do that. Obviously I need to install the cams to do that, so I shall do that at a later date. But for now, the head is looking good. Next job I think will be to start working on the bottom part of the engine, so work on the crankcase and the crankcases, the cylinders, the pistons, all that side of things. So if any of that's of interest, please consider subscribing and hit the like button. And with that said, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.